So this is a video that well, no, it's not a video. It's been a question I've been asking a lot recently, especially since, I suppose, getting to know some of the more new Bitcoin members that I previously hadn't talked to. And that question is, it's a very broad question, and it's quite literally been asked like this: how do I get better at World of Tanks? And Jesus, how to answer that question? Well, I was thinking about it, and I've come up with a little list, well, a long list that I'm gonna explain. So that's what this video will be about. I'll put up some gameplay in the background, and I'll kind of talk over it and talk through it. In fact, the first thing I'm going to be talking about is pubs, how to get better in pubs and why that matters, and then some common misconceptions. And you can see, after I played the Advance with Goons last night, I played 4 games in a platoon with my buddy Platt at 1 a.m. I played 4 games in a row. You can see 1 at 101, 11, 25, and 37. So I'm not cherry picking these games, and they're not like spectacular games, but I'm going to show you that I'm able to do consistently well, right? Over a period of 4 games back to back last night, just relatively good games back to back, okay? And in a bad tank, concept number 5. It's not a very great tank. So I'll load that up here, and then we can look over some of the advanced games from last night later on when I'm talking about clans. So here's the first game. I'm not really going to talk about it. You could watch my gameplay to kind of see how I play, see how I aim, if I take bad shots, good shots, right? I'm going to be hitting many light tanks. You can see that. Maybe how I position, how aggressive or non-aggressive I am. I'm actually an incredibly aggressive player, but I don't play too aggressively in this thing just because, 1, I'm trying to 3-mark it, and 2, it's brutal. It can't out DPM even light tanks, and that's seriously not a joke. And it's not maneuverable. It's fast, but it's not maneuverable. So I generally play a lot more passively in this thing. So that you could compare your playstyle to mine, for example. Now, like I said again, I play relatively passively in this thing. But if you play more passively in a regular tank than you see me playing in this thing, maybe you want to rethink your playstyle, for example. Anyway, so before I talk about pubs, I want to talk about common misconceptions that the average player has about either their teams, their own gameplay, themselves, mentalities, stuff like that. We'll just get it right out of the way, right off the bat, because I'm sure there's a lot of Klaus Kellerman viewers, conspiracy theorists. Let's talk about them, because even conspiracies are normally born in truths, right? So I've got a little list here. The first one, which is brutally untrue, that a lot of people like to use to cope. And if you think any of these, I suggest maybe rethink it, okay? Right? Because I promise these ways of thinking are not conducive to getting better. So, the first one is everyone is luckier than me, or I have just bad RNG on my account for any reason. I hear, oh, I'm not a paying customer, so I get bad RNG. That's bullshit. Everyone complains about RNG, okay? Everyone is not luckier than you. You are not an unlucky player. You don't have a 46% win rate because you are unlucky, all right? Especially if you have a lot of battles, so a large sample size. So let's get that right out of the way. That being said, I'm sure people have heard me say, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to RNG too. Like, I feel like, and I'm supposed to be a very good player, I swear to God, all of my kill shots bounce. Or like go into the tracks, right? Like, it's just a thing that we like feel. All right? So I always like to say I'm a Klaus Kellerman conspiracy theorist too, because all of my shots bounce when I'm about to get a kill. But I'm not using that as an excuse. It's more of like a joke, right? Even though I sometimes really do feel that way, right? I can't use that as an excuse. Oh, I'd be so good if my account had good RNG. No, you can't use that. You need to understand that RNG is not the thing holding you back. Well, it can be, but if it's holding you back, it's holding everybody back, okay? Okay, second one, and this is relevant to the discussions Bitcoin and Goons has been having. Lots of people cheat. This is untrue. Most of the community does not cheat. There's a very, very small percentage of people who cheat. So I'm not even going to go into that one. Yes, people do cheat. Almost no one cheats, though. Okay, so let's get that one out of the way again right away. Also, it should be noted, cheats in this game don't help. I've seen like people be like, oh, aimbot, man. Aimbots in this game are brutal. They do not help. You should, and this is not an exaggeration, you should have perfect aim in this game. Okay? You should only ever miss because of RNG. Because your shot just deviates or something. You should have perfect aim. This game is not terribly difficult to have, and I mean perfect, not nearly perfect. I mean perfect aim. Okay? Aimbots do not help. And I can prove it to you too. Like even the professional SA team that was caught cheating, no one was accusing them of aimbot because it just doesn't help. Okay, so people who say, "Oh, aimbot," it like that right away. I know that people who say that are not very good players. Okay, and I'm being nicely when I say that because that's just it's brutal. It doesn't help. Okay. So here you can see, by the way, that I stopped focusing the Wheezy to focus this T100 because the T100 is more important to kill in this situation. That's a little side note. So there you go, cheats. Another one relating to RNG. If I paid, I would get better RNG. No, no. I haven't paid money for this. I've actually been taking money from Wargaming because they've been paying me to cast and to play tournaments and shit. So I haven't paid money in this game in a fucking while, like 2 or 3 years. My RNG is the same. I've played on a million different accounts. The RNG just sucks on all of them because 25% RNG just kind of sucks. You can see Platt here is about to get annihilated by Artie. He sucks. um, uh, what's another one? Oh, yes. So, and here's where the conspiracies or these like misconceptions kind of start having some truth to them, but I'll explain why because people don't understand why they might or may not be partially true. So, good players just camp and bait to farm damage, and if I didn't give a shit and was selfish, right? This is just an average person. If I was not selfish, I would be just as good and I'd have 4,000 W and 8. No, you wouldn't, okay? So, two things can be true at once. One, you're right. A lot of the quote unquote good players with high stats are actually bad players who just bait their teammates and farm. You are right, okay? But on the other hand, you also probably wouldn't be able to do that. And this is just a general you, right? A general you because I'm talking about 99% of the other the player base, right? So there's two tiers of good, like really good players. So there's the really good pub stars who have like 5,000 W and 8, can do 6K average damage. Well, no one can really do that, but you know what I'm saying. And then there's people above that who pubs don't matter because pubs don't translate into competitive play. Okay. Uh, But there's one of the other misconceptions. You're right. A lot of the good players just do bait and farm. They're still probably better than, well, no, they definitely are better than 99% of the player base. Um, but yeah, I'll leave that one there. Another one is I may not be the best at shooting, but boy, do I understand the game. People love giving advice. I'll load up this next replay here. Now, no, again, generally you don't understand the game. Especially if you only play pubs. You have no clue what's going on. Even if you only play like the occasional 15v15 stronghold or clan war campaign and you don't like call or help call and you just kind of drive your heavy yeah, I promise you, you know nothing about the game. And I'm not embellishing. And you can ask anybody. Ask Goons members who've kind of played with me with small format, even for a couple seasons. And you go from thinking, oh, I'm pretty good in pubs. I do 3,000 average damage. I can farm. I know most of the good positions. And then you play competitive, and you get fucking owned. And you realize how much you don't know. Seriously, if you're wondering, ask around. Ask around. Ask people. Like, there's the... Ask Laker. You can ask Lore or Troll. Lauren, this guy Platt. Now, they have not actually played super a lot of small format, like maybe one or two times. But ask them, how quickly you realize how much you don't know. For example, when I first got into small format in like 2016, man, I just had 2 years of just getting shit on. It destroys your ego. In 2016, I was like that purple player, that pub star who just thought they were the shit, right? I was 16 years old in 2016. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so good. I start playing actual competitive World of Tanks. It's just the biggest ego humbling of all time because you realize you actually suck, right? It's so because you spend so much time getting good at pubs, and then you think you're a god, and then oh my god, I actually suck, and I suck more than I sucked at the beginning of my pub journey. So it's an ego humbling thing. But there's RNG, for example, right? That was an RNG shot, perfectly aimed. Whatever, it happens. Okay, I'm not going to start a conspiracy about it. It's fucking annoying, but it happens. Okay, so there's one more, and here is the last misconception that I'm going to talk about. Oh, there's two more actually. So the first one is I'd be good if I used more premium ammo or premium consumables. This one is both true and untrue again, okay? So you're going to have to hold two things simultaneously. Yes, you may do a little more damage, okay? You may do half a shot to a shot more damage if you had a little bit better consumables and use premium ammo. Because, let's be real, premium ammo allows you to pen stuff easier, right? You can just take positions and shots that you may not be able to take with regular ammo. So yes, it'll allow you to do a little more damage. It doesn't make you a better player though, okay? Whether you use premium ammo or not, a little unlucky that I got shot there, but it was a very aggressive poke, and you'll see I'm not going to do it again. Whether you use premium ammo or not, it doesn't affect you as a player, right? You're right. Every good player is going to use a lot of premium ammo. You can see I'm going to use premium because I want to do as much damage as possible. But the premium ammo itself does not make me a better player, okay? So people need to understand that. It's not just a switch that you're going to flip and you just become good, because this game is about decision making. Remember how I said like everybody's aim should be perfect at the top level, right? So then it must come down to decision making, which is going to make people a good player or not. Okay, so I hit that. I low roll. That is not like the best shot I took, right? I took too long to aim, and thank God I'm going to get that second shot into him. But I shouldn't have aimed for that long. Like, I needed to aim a little quicker because I should... And Platt just got fucking one shot. I should have realized, and I kind of did realize, but it was almost too late, that he was going to get behind cover because I need a second shot, right? That's something you need to think about. And it's probably something a lot of people don't think about, right? And finally, this last misconception is that stats don't matter. All right. And this one is, again, like a duality of sorts. So, this is going to sound bad, but it's absolutely true. Stats matter for people who suck, and they don't matter for good players. So, before someone gets upset, let me explain. So, if you have 200 WN8, okay, and a 45% win rate, unfortunately, it simply means you do not know how to shoot, you do not know how to aim, okay? And you just simply don't understand the game, okay? You probably just drive in and die, right? So there's like a baseline. You need to have pretty good WN8 because having good WN8 and stats and win rate, it means at the very least you know how to shoot, you know how to farm, and you know how to move, okay? So if you're really bad, unfortunately, your stats matter. You're never going to see a really good player with terrible, terrible stats, okay? That's just the truth of it. Conversely, though, if you have high stats, your stats don't matter anymore. And the reason is because you can get super high stats by just farming. Now you have to be, like I said, you have to know how to shoot your gun to move and be relatively and outplay people to get good stats, okay? But once you get to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 WN8, a lot of it can just be because you know positions, you're very good at baiting your teammates, you can like chai snipe and camp, right? So the example I'll give is a lot of people, pub stars we call them, with super, super high pub stats, do not translate into competitive at all right? And I was kind of talking about this in 2016 when was first started, because the pubby mentality to farm damage in pubs is very different. You need to pay bait, and in competitive, you bait your team. I guarantee you'll be kicked off the team so quickly, right? It's a different game. So that's why for really good players, thank God he missed that. I didn't realize he was going to be there. You can see I'm very scared about the ridge, so I'm not going to actually commit. I'm going to kind of back off here in a sec. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, if you have super high stats, I'm glad I spelled the 183. Had to take the shot, unfortunately it missed. If you have high stats, your stats start to not matter because it means nothing in terms of translating into competitive play, right? So I'll explain it one more time. Good stats does not translate into competitive play. Unfortunately, though, bad stats do translate into competitive play, right? You can see, you should be able to see it now. If you're good, you're not necessarily good in competitive. But if you're bad in pubs, like, come on, it's quite obvious you're going to be bad in competitive too. So that should make sense to most people. So when a good player, when a bad player says stats don't matter, like in the context they're talking about, no, it definitely does matter, right? Because they're probably using it as an excuse to why they're bad. But when a good player says, oh, look at my stats, well, then you could say, well, no, your stats don't matter, right? Like, you might not actually be good. You might just be good at baiting and farming, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. Now let's start actually talking about how do I get better. Okay, that was, fuck, let's check how long that was. How long did I talk there for? Jesus Christ, 16 minutes, okay? Well, so hopefully no one has fucking retard brain anymore. Let's talk about pubs first, because as I was just talking about how stats don't matter, and, oh, you can see I switched intuition and we actually kill each other, right? So I had like a 5k game, another 5k game almost. We're going to win. And again, the pubs are just showing consistency. So let's talk about pubs, because the only way you're going to become a better player is to first be essentially perfect in pubs. Now, perfect doesn't mean you don't have 0 damage games. Everyone has 0 damage games. It doesn't mean you're doing 10k damage per round. It doesn't mean you have a 80% win rate, okay? But it means you win the engagements you should. You're consistently performing at the top of your team, okay? You have a good win rate, and you're able to take like 1v1s and stuff and read the map and just overall do very well. And your pub progress is easy to track, by the way, right? Because you can see your average damage per game. You can see all that good stuff. So let's actually talk about how do you get better in pubs. What are some things you can track? Well, one, your average damage, okay? You need to look at your average damage, and you should see a positive trend. I'm not going to give everyone a benchmark because everyone is at a different spot, right? For example, a lot of people in Goons might be aiming for 3,000 average damage in their heavies and medium tanks, okay? A lot of other people are going to, like some really top tier players are going to aim for 4,000 to 5,000 damage in their top tier tanks, okay? So it's really more about the trend. Your average damage should always be going up, right? Okay? The second thing is win rate. And this one, everybody says, oh, I just get unlucky. I would agree. You could probably be unlucky maybe 1 to 2 percentage points in win rate, or you could be really bad at the start of your World of Tanks career, etc. But your recent win rate should also be trending up, right? You should be winning more games than you're losing, because at the end of the day, after like 10, 50,000 games, you are the common denominator, right? You don't just achieve a 44% win rate. There was a pretty good HG shot on the WoT trigger. You don't achieve a 48% win rate because your team sucks, okay? You achieve a 48% win rate because you... Thank God this guy wasn't looking, so I can slow it down and aim, right? Because he wasn't looking at me. You achieve a 48% win rate because you are not the greatest player. And that's actually just the truth that everyone has to face. Maybe if you're a 48% win rate player, yeah, maybe you play at a 50% win rate level and you get a little bit unlucky, but 50% win rate, it's still not good, right? So you want a positive win rate, trending in the correct direction. This Yag's going to go. I'm going to look for the track. 57 heavy, so I play safe immediately, right? React immediately. I know I can play safe. Okay? So I've explained Average damage, win rate. I've explained why win 8 or stats do and don't matter. Marks. Go for marks of excellence. Um, it's really only the only thing I do in pubs anymore. I just 3 mark every tank in the, like every tier 10 in the game. Um, that's the only reason I'm playing this concept right now is because I'm 3 marking it. Marks are a good way because you have to do well, okay? You have to consistently perform well to get marks of excellence. Now, you can get marks by doing what I was saying, a lot of good players do, just kind of baiting your team. But again, you still have to shoot straight, right? So, that's it. Um, Before I go on, I'm going to talk about like how you should be feeling in pubs. You should feel like your aim is always perfect, okay? So, for example, my dad's older. He plays this game with me. He's a veteran. I know a lot of us are veterans in Bitcoin, for example. He has very shaky aim. He does not have perfect aim. If you want to get better, you need to have nearly perfect aim. And you can achieve perfect aim or nearly perfect aim not because of your reflexes, right? This is not a first-person shooter like Apex or something. Where you just need to be young and have great reflexes and great hand-eye coordination. You use your brain in this game to aim, okay? You use your brain. So I'd say that's like a very important thing about pubs. Make sure you're hitting all of your shots, or all of the shots that can be reasonably expected to hit, right? Like, don't miss light tanks or EBRs unless it's RNG. Obviously, everybody misses once in a while because everybody takes a bad shot, but more often than, like, even in these games, you should say, okay, see, for example, I should have shot that a tenth of a second earlier while he was still angled and just risked it that that it wouldn't hit because the reticle was a bit bigger instead of a guaranteed bounce on his side. So stuff like that. So you should be striving to have perfect aim, and it's also easy to see because if you're just missing shots, here again, I shouldn't have peeked that without zooming out and seeing if he was aiming at me because I don't really want to be a one shot now. It was a little greedy. It's just lazy play on my part there. Okay. The next thing is don't camp. Okay, don't like sit back and just camp. You're not gonna learn anything. Okay, don't just load up your Yag Panzer E100 like this moron. Oh, oops. Can I? Like this moron. And sit in the back of the map and camp. You're not gonna get better. Go make plays. Okay, play new positions. Make plays. Try to go outplay people. All right. You might get shit on for a bit, but then you'll start learning and evolving and adapting, okay? The next thing is constantly look at the map. See how the battle is developing and figure out what your next plan is going to be. Not what you're doing right now, like what you should be doing in maybe a minute, okay? And you don't have to be doing this constantly, but when you get to a position or it looks like something's developing or a fight's happening, think what your next move is going to be. Are we going to win, and do I want to get more aggressive to get damage? There's another 5,500 game, right? That's basically 3 in a row. And here's the last one I played of the night with Platt. Where should I go to get more damage, or to make sure I live, or to try to secure the victory? Don't just sit there tunnel vision shooting your gun. The thing I fucking hate the most about not great players is a lot of the time people will just kind of like on Himmels, for example, on the 8 line, they'll just sit hull down and shoot at each other all game, and they like think they're doing something. It's mind-boggling to me. Like, you're not doing it. Make a play, or try to make a play, right? Or if you're holding, like, yeah, hold, but don't just sit and just randomly trade. Now, this game is going to be really good and really bad. This was the last one I just got off after this one, but you'll see why at the end. And you can see Platt and I were playing together, right? I'm making sure to use his vision. He's been getting unlucky, like one shot a couple times, but he's actually going to get back again in this game by a 183. Anyway. Read the map and think, okay? This game is a thinking game. Like, a lot of people don't understand. This game is not an aiming game. This game is a thinking game. Like I said, everybody should have perfect aim. The differences between players is how you think and how you move. Okay? It's a thinking game. So, that's really how you're going to get better at pubs. Trend in the positive direction in terms of your stats. Make sure your aim is perfect. And I can't train you on that, right? You can't come back and ask me like, how do I make my aim better? You just got to. It's a feel thing. You've got to feel it out, right? You've got to figure out shell velocities, where to aim, use your brain, pre-aim, stuff like that. So remember how I was also earlier saying how I play pretty passive in this game? Maybe some people who are truly passive players are like, oh my god, you took an aggro position. This is an aggressive position, but it's not dangerous, right? Like I have my EBR and RHM, I could get out, I have cover. Like it's a I took a like not even that aggressive position to play passively. So if you'd be someone else and you'd be playing like over here where these morons are playing, rethink that. You're not going to get better doing that. Like this like actually upsets me. What are you going to do here? The only time you get shots is if they're dumb. Okay? That's another thing I should talk about. If you're playing the game where the only time you get shots is if the enemy is dumb, don't you think you're doing something wrong, relying on the enemy's stupidity? He just got penned again. I always like to say, I like taking positions where I control the engagement. Okay? Like from here. I'm controlling every time I'm firing or can get shot at. Right? If you're back on this ridge like these two morons, the only time you can get shots is if the enemy is a moronic and exposes themselves. Okay? So if you find yourself generally only getting damage because the enemy makes mistakes and they just drive in front of your gun, seriously rethink the way you play. Okay? You should be proactively trying to control engagements. It's easy to say, it's hard to do, but hopefully maybe you're kind of seeing a bit of it. And you will, as you start thinking about it more and more, and this is not an easy process, by the way. This takes fucking years, right? But the pubs, you should be able to notice like significant pub improvement within like a month or two if you really, really try and focus and analyze your own gameplay, kind of thinking about what I'm talking about. I promise you will get better quickly. Okay. One of the only redeeming qualities about this tank is that it's generally fairly accurate. So that's probably all I'm going to talk about for pubs. You can see I want to get aggressive because I actually want to get under their ridge at G3, but the threat of the Sheridan is just too great with the 183 and the Yag proxy in there, so I'm not going to quite do that. So yeah, recap for pubs. You got to get better at pubs if you want to get better in competitive, because if you're going to play competitive, like I said, your aim has to be essentially perfect. You need to be very confident in 1v1, and I think that's something I may have forgotten to say. When I'm in a pub, everyone I go up against, I know I can outplay the shit out of them. Okay? If you're not confident like that, it means you still have a ways to go. Right? And not like blind confidence where like, oh my god, I'll own them, and then you just get fucking rolled. Like, you should be winning like most trades. Okay? Because you should be pre-aimed, or you should be smarter, you should understand where to aim, you should be maneuvering around, stuff like that. Like even just something dumb like this, like double bushing, I understand the angle I'm going to get. I know I can't get lit by this Sheridan. I've got the prog blocked off from the wall, right? Just small shit like that. And I'm not even thinking about this, by the way. Like, this is not that, those three thoughts didn't go through my mind when I'm shooting this guy, right? Actually, nothing's going through. It's just instinct because I've done it so many times, right? Oh, unfortunate shot. Wasn't fully aimed. Right? And that's where you want to get, where you're just making correct plays and shit off of instinct, right? And I'm still full health, and we're losing, so it's good that I'm full health. You'll notice there, I know it's a fence, right? Because I understand the topography of the map, and I look at the mini-map, so I know I can shoot through that. So that's enough about pubs, okay? So again, pubs matter. You need to get better at pubs, but unfortunately, the next thing we're talking about, which is competitive 15v15, clan wars, strongholds, scrims, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, being good at pubs is a prerequisite for being good at competitive play, but it doesn't mean that you will actually be good at competitive play, and that's where it gets a lot of people. They get frustrated and just decide not to play competitive because they thought their pub success would translate, and it doesn't. So, and I would actually like to get into the advanced games I recorded. so I can talk about this, but we can start talking about a general overview. Um, the first thing you need to do, well, actually, let's talk about like physical progressions first, okay? So you get good at pubs, let's say, and you want to start joining a clan. What clan should you join? Well, you should join a clan where the players are, like, the average player is slightly better than you and you have something to learn. You wouldn't, a Bitcoin player, for example, wouldn't want to join, like, Cracked, like the top clan on the North American server. Why? It's just going to confuse you and you won't learn anything, and you'll just grow resentful because people would be upset with you. And I'm not saying you'd get into Crack, but just for an example. You're not going to learn anything. You want to join a clan that, like I said, the caller's more experienced than you and the average player is a little bit better so that you can learn, but so that you're not learning so much or you're doing such complicated things that it just makes zero sense to you, right? You should understand why a call's being made or why players are rotating a certain way, etc. Okay? This next part's a little controversial because a lot of people are quote unquote loyal to their clan, but you shouldn't be. You can be in a different clan and still play with your old buddies. Once you kind of figure out that, hey, like, I've progressed a lot and I'm now one of the best players in the clan and I'm now starting to get frustrated with other players making bad plays, right? That probably means you've progressed to the point where you're noticing mistakes that you were making before and now other newer players are making, right? You've kind of outgrown the clan, almost like you've graduated. You should then go to another clan, a better clan, okay? And repeat the whole process over. And eventually, in theory, you will get to the top clan, right? You will get to the very top of the ladder, and from there, really, you get better together, right? Because you can always learn. The meta's always shifting, even at the top end. Everyone's learning stuff new all the time. Like, seriously, every like season of the competitive leagues, like, there's new shit that's going on. Okay, so that's how you should kind of physically progress through. Um, Now, when you're actually in a stronghold or advance, though, let's say you've picked your correct clan, and you know what? I think Goons would be a very good clan for someone like people from Bitcoin, um, because Goons, on average, has significantly more experienced players. Okay, and Bitcoin can learn a lot from them. Now, I think sometimes if some of the players in Bitcoin are purely pub players and do not have any experience, I think they might be really lost playing with Goons initially. But I also think Goons is a very welcoming environment. As long as you can take heat, like I said, like I'll call it out, but people can call me out too. I don't mind. If it's a bad call, like, you can say it's a bad call, and I'll explain to you if I agree, like, yeah, you're right, I just made a bad call, or no, this is why the call was made and it should have worked for this and this reason. um so Goons is a good environment like that. Everyone in Goons is a good guys. I don't think we have any girls right now, who want to learn and who are willing to help, like, seriously. So that's something to think about. There are also a ton of other good clans you can go out there. Okay. Um, where was I? Yes. So when you're actually in a stronghold, and here you're gonna start to see the misplay, and I'll actually go over it in a second. It's not here. It's in a couple minutes. So the first thing you need to work on when playing 15v15. So I'm talking about strongholds and advances, not necessarily campaigns, because in campaigns, like, points matter. You know what I mean? So I know I'm not going to get lit here, even though I'm going to back off, because I know the spotting points on tanks, right? Everyone should know there's physical spot detection points on tanks where he can spot from, and it's the top of his turret, like, gun mantlet area. Okay, so he can't spot me if his ass is out. Okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask around. Someone will explain it to you. That's fairly important to know. Okay, it's not always used. Like, you don't always have to use it because it can be niche, but you should know it. So as I was saying, you're in the clan, you're playing strongholds and scrims. The first thing you need to not be afraid of is making mistakes. Okay, we're in an advance. Advances don't fucking matter. The only reason we play advances is to get better and practice shit. Only reason. I don't know how they do it in Bitcoin or other clans. Every top clans don't play advances anymore. Let's be real. I haven't played an advance with Give Up in fucking years. Cracked doesn't play. Like, the leaderboards are a joke. But Here's the mistake, okay? Okay, so our thought process is, and I'll continue on clans in a second. Plat comes down here, spots everything, I shoot. The problem is the Sheridan and Sturv has gone on lit, and we were talking about this. I said, we'll gamble that the Sheridan and Sturv isn't either here or here, okay? And it was a poor gamble because you'll see I was wrong. What actually should have happened is as soon as I kill the 50B, Plat, the one-shot RHM, should come up and double push here, and I should be the one who pushes down the C line, okay? Because it's very likely that the 183 is not going to just be sitting here, and if he does, I should be able to dip into here or into here in time, probably into here. And I can take shots and get into the corner. Plat can't, okay? And look what happens. Look what happens to me here. The Sheridan's there, kind of brutal. I get set on fucking fire by artillery, and then I get killed by the second artillery. I was full health, 8,100. This was a 10,000 damage game. And a victory. I get unlucky. Like, there's no denying I got extremely unlucky here. But if we had played perfectly, this wouldn't have happened, right? I could have also double bushed. There was no reason to me to be looking through the bush right there, other than it feels more comfortable, right? Because Plat's doing the spotting. What is the reason for me to be not double bushed? Right? So if I'd been double bushed, I wouldn't have been lit. I would have still killed the leopard. I wouldn't have been lit. Plat would have died from the Sheridan, but then I could have just pushed into the Sheridan. Or alternatively, like I was saying before, I could have come down here and pushed through, and Plat could have double bushed and killed the leopard, or I could have killed him on the move or something. And then I maybe take one from Leo, maybe even two from Sheridan. Doesn't matter. I'm still 800 health by the time I get to the corner. Sheridan's dead, and we then win the game. So I can't cope here, right? Like, I did get unlucky, but it was unlucky based on a non-optimal play. And up until that point, I'd been playing perfectly, right? Like, I have 8,000, I was full health. And just one mistake, and I get unlucky, and the fucking game's over, and it's a loss. So, it sucks. But you could see over those 4 games we played, I averaged over 5,500 damage just from being just consistently performing in pubs, right? So hopefully we can learn a little something from that. I'm going to load up these replays now. So as I was talking about mistakes, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I've heard that a lot of clans, isn't just Bitcoin, a lot of clans with, let's say, older callers, right? Like not like, I'm talking about like maybe 50, like maybe some army vets who are used to discipline and shit or whatever, or pretender wannabe veterans. You know those type of people, like the 50-year-old dudes who like have this glorified mentality of being in the military, and it's like they live vicariously through this game. It's just a little weird. Like, my dad's a veteran and he hates those type of people. It's like, come on, what the fuck is wrong with you? Anyway, a little bit of tangent there. Those are the type of callers and people who want everyone to shut up and never don't think on your own, only listen to the call. No. Well, there's a fine line. Make plays in these games, okay? Make mistakes, right? If you make a mistake and it's something, for example, people in goons are going to make mistakes, okay? I'm probably going to get pissed. I'm going to be like, what the fuck was that play? If they just say, oh, I don't know, I was just driving. Okay, well, that's retarded. That's, like, really obnoxious. But if they say, oh, I saw this and I wanted to do this, I'm not going to be annoyed anymore. I'm going to say, okay, it might still be retarded, but I'm going to explain why it's retarded. And I want them to do... I never want them to make that play again, but I still want them to be confident enough that they can go and make plays. Now, what you're really trying to do is make correct plays, right? Correct micro plays and micro calls, and tell the caller. You can see I'm pinging and I'm not driving properly here, right? So, for example, you see something, you think you should do something, say, don't even ask, say, I'm going to move up here, yeah? Or something like that. And the caller will say, sure, do it. Or, no, don't do that, because maybe they're thinking of something a little bit different, okay? So don't be afraid to make the plays. Verbalize it, but make those plays, all right? You can see I'm going to back off. I have tons of support. We're going to be fine. Because that's how you're going to learn. You're not going to learn by following blindly a random call and not knowing what you're doing, right? You need to think for yourself. Okay, so make those plays. Talk with the group you're with. If you're in the heavy group, talk to each other. Play off of each other. Okay? You can see we're going to leave the hill because we're pushing 8 line, but when we leave the hill, we're not truly going to leave it because they are going to be forced to turn around. For example, these guys, this 2 line, I said it, but they could have said it earlier. They say, we're going to take this 2 line out together, yeah? I say, yeah, take 2 line. Right, they're thinking proactively what they need to do in their tanks. Someone in the 277s should then call. They get here, like, oh, we can't push it anymore. This 277 going into A1 is a very good heads-up play, right? I'm not calling that because I'm in a brawl right now. Very good play. Hopefully he said it. If he didn't, he should have, but it's still a good play. These guys coming up, they are playing their own game. I'm not calling them right now. They need to be thinking and playing off of each other, right? And deciding what to do as a group. There's nothing wrong with talking, right? They can be talking right now. Don't be like saying random shit, especially in a brawl, but call out your shots, call out the kills, right? And here, look how I'm going to simp for my guy, right? And look how we're going to play this, right? I'm going to make sure he stays alive. As soon as this KPZ fires, I know my buddy, because I've been paying, right? So he bounces. Right, I know my buddy in the BZ here hasn't fired yet. I know he's just about to come off a reload. I know he's going to reload before the KPZ reloads. So I'm going to now completely get out of his way so he has a clean shot. And I'm going to assume, because you always assume your teammates are going to do the right thing. Even if they don't, you have to assume and trust they will. I'm going to assume he's going to pen, and I'll then be on his side to get the kill. Right, so I've blocked. This KPZ fires and bounces. I know my BZ is going to be reloaded. So I say, make sure you pen, right? He gets the pen, and I know I'm going to out-reload him too, and so, right, and only 3 words were exchanged, okay, and I don't play with Jar Jar, who's Godzilla, that often, right, but he understood what he had to do, and we're communicating, okay, so, that's very important. Like, do not be afraid to make plays and make mistakes. And if it's retarded, learn from it. If you make a bad play, learn from it. Ask why it was a bad play. Or substantiate your play. Not like an asshole, but say, okay, this is why I did it. And if the caller has any, like, semblance of worth, I wasn't even paying attention here, they should be able to say, oh, okay, no, that makes sense, or no, it's wrong, but here's why, okay? But never just like randomly drive in and, well, I was just driving and I had a shot, but I have no clue why I was driving. That's when it gets a little obnoxious, right? So there's a line. It's like it's a line you walk, right? Make your own plays, but don't do it stupidly, and don't just wander off randomly too, right? Like there's a balance to everything. Don't just the caller calls you to go to one flank and you just fuck off and do something completely different, right? That's also bad. But everyone's an adult. They should be able to understand balance. Okay? The next thing you always have to focus on is understanding the macro call. Okay? So the micro is kind of what I was just talking about, playing your tank, playing with other people, doing what I was just talking about where I was helping that BZ, where you're understanding your reload, you've got your other person's reload, the enemy tank, right? The awareness of where you are in relation to your other group. Shit like that. That's the micro. That's your play and your play relative to the people around you. The macro is overall what you're doing, right? So it's the big picture call, okay? So you, as a player, should always understand your role in terms of how it fits in with the macro, all right? So you should think, who are the important tanks, right? Because there's always going to be, like, more important tanks. And what I mean by that is, do you have tanks that are pushed up and are easily repushable but are in good positions, which you would need to support quickly? Do you have someone on the offside who's very important and farming? Okay? Do you have a push group that is going to go win the game if they do it correctly, right? So who are the important tanks or groups? Like, are you holding while another group pushes? Stuff like that. Okay? Think about what your next rotation is going to be. Look at the map, right? So here, for example, look at the map right now and think to yourself, and you have a little bit of time because I've paused it, right? But you need to be thinking fast in real game, right? You'd have about 3 seconds in the real game, and I'm about to ping it, but think to yourself right now, okay, what is going to be the next call? Well, what should go through your brain is, it looks like they're all going hill, okay, but we're not sure. We have a faster comp to take hill. Look at our comp, look at their comp. So if they full brawl hill, we will probably win that. Okay, so this is what should be going through your brain. So the call that's probably going to be made, because it looks like they're all going hill, is that we're all going to go hill. Okay, why do we do that? Because if they are all going hill, we need our whole team hill. But a little further than that, what can you think about next? If they don't take hill and kind of do a camp, what are we going to do, right? As a heavy, think about that. And what you should think about is what the macro will be is, okay, well, overall what's going to happen is if they don't take hill, we want to light take hill, right? You want as much map control always without a lot of tanks. If you can take a section of the map with one tank, it's almost always better to do that, right? Map control with as little tanks as possible. So if they're not on hill, and you're going to see it in a second, you should understand, without me explaining it, or you should understand before the caller's calling it, that you're probably going to rotate most of people off of hill and do something else. Maybe you don't know exactly what you're going to do yet, but you probably know you're not going to stay on hill, okay? Because you understand that you can't just YOLO down the 0 line with their whole team stacked there, but you need to hold hill lightly, right? So at this point, right now in this game, as we're driving up, everybody should be understanding, right? Just internally, because you're doing your best to think about what the macro is going to be. Okay, we're going to definitely brawl hill if it's a hill fight, right? But if it's not and we take it, I'm probably going to rotate. I might not know what's going to happen next, but the caller's going to say something, and then I'll reevaluate my micro. I'll think about it again, right? So for example, you are Punisher in his 260. Because he's a great player and he's thinking, he knows he's going to take the hill fight if it's there, and if it's not, he'll probably rotate out. He doesn't quite know where he's going to rotate out to, but that's fine because he's still thinking ahead. So then, all of a sudden, the call comes to rotate off the hill. Punisher's like, oh, I'm 2 steps ahead of you. I'm already turning around to rotate off the hill. Awesome. He's saving time, being proactive. He's thinking, right? He's using his brain. That's already making him a better player. And he gets called to come over to the G line. Now he has a concrete macro call. Okay, why would I come to G1? Oh, it's probably because we're going to push down, but he also understands, because he's a good player and he's played before, right? And he's, again, trying to think about the macro. Okay, we're probably not going to push like down here right away because we'll still have to establish the E line, and we want to get our EBR and lights a little deeper. So that's what he should be thinking when he's called to come to G1, right? He's not going to be shooting, he's just rotating, so he's thinking about what the next macro moves are going to be and who are going to be the most important tanks. Okay? So that's how you should be thinking. It's not easy. And you might be wrong a lot of the time, but you keep playing, you understand the caller, you start getting familiar with some standard openers and strats, and I'll go on a side tangent here. They're called standard openers because they are standard, okay? Standard openers, the way you deploy initially being standard, it's good for 2 reasons. There's a reason they're standard and they work. Because all standard openers should make sure that you cannot get shit pushed right off the bat, okay? But should take as much map control as possible. What is their EBR doing? Also, you'll see I'm going to always hit the EBR. And this is something I notice with Goons players too. Right? I know he was going unlit. I know Carnage is about to relight him, so I'm getting ready for the shot. I am one of the only ones who consistently hits EBRs. And it's not because my aim is a million times better. Well, against some people it is. But a lot of people in Goons can aim very well. I'm hitting the shots because I am, like, aware of where he's going to pop up, where I need to be pre-aimed. I'm not just derping along up the hill, right, with my turret coming, facing this way and trying to snap him at the last second, right? It's all about awareness. Okay? So you can see, I'm pinging. These guys are all coming off the hill. We're leaving a couple on the hill. You can see now the macro, if I'm one of the players, what am I thinking? Immediately my head goes to, okay, they're camping. We need to break a camp. What do I need to do to break a camp? Well, I need to not bleed, because unfortunately, if you're breaking a camp, it means at some point, you're going to have to hard push something almost all the time, okay? And you can only do that if your heavy tanks have a lot of HP. So the main focus for people in heavy tank group, good shot there, should be not to bleed randomly, okay? Especially these guys rotating. So this is poor positioning, right? Waterloo should not be here because he can get shot from over here and here. He should be where log is. This is a micro thing that a caller should never have to say. And I even say, like, just go around like that. This is a purely individual mistake that he could be doing what log's doing and be on full health. And you can see if he goes down anymore, that's a problem. It means he can't push. HP matters, especially in camps. Okay? So I was talking about macro and thinking about the call and what your role is going to be both on an individual basis, like what tank am I going to fight type, like how am I going to play, but also on a macro level. How does me rotating around and fighting, how does that contribute to the overall strategy? Okay? So there's that. One thing I should have mentioned this beforehand. Always at the start of the battle, you should be reading your team comp and the enemy team comp, because as a caller, that's how I'm making my calls, right? I'm making the calls based, like the openings, based on what they're running, okay? And as a player, why should you do the same? And there you go. He's bleeding again. He should be dead there. Just poor positioning there, okay? You're reading the team comp because you will instantly, if you know what you're doing and you've read it a lot, you will instantly understand probably a strat we're going to run and stuff that should work and that shouldn't work. Okay? For example, you read their team comp at the start of this game, you should automatically understand, wow, this might not be the call the caller makes, but we could easily win a hill fight if they were to come hill. Okay? So you're reading the team comp and think to yourself, okay, what can they do? What can we do? Are we faster? Are we slower? Do they have a camping composition? Do they have a push composition? Okay, do they have more lights than us? Right? That type of stuff. So always read the comp. Back to the micro things. Or the macro things. When you're rotating around and looking for shots, you should be thinking, who are the important tanks? I kind of touched on that. What angles are important, right? So for example, if you have a tank pushed up into a forward spotting bush, for example, on Corellia, there's a very popular spotting bush you could do. You know he's a very important tank. What angles can you guys take so that you can get into the fight that you probably know is coming? Because again, you're paying attention, you understand the macro, you say, okay, the fight will probably be here or here, but I still need to cover this guy. What angle can I take that's going to maximize my efficiency? Okay? Where will you most likely rotate next? If you have a good idea where you're going to rotate next, you're going to react to the call faster, right? And again, I'm not missing EBRs. You can't miss EBRs when you have clean shots like that and you don't have to snap, right? I have no clue where that one went. Anyway, it might not have penned anyway because he was on such an angle. So the macro and micro are very important. I don't know if I would say do both at the same time. Probably focus on your micro first, but you can focus on micro a lot in pubs, right? That's your individual play and you're playing around the other people around you. But then the macro is all about the thinking. It's all about thinking. So, for example, this is a camp break that we're running. And if you think about it, what are we trying to do? We have come up with these guys, and actually, let's talk about what the call is here. Okay, so you want to close distance. You get someone on this rock like this chief, and what that's going to do is it's going to force them down, and they can't re-push hill because you've got a couple guys on hill that's going to bleed. If they re-push hill, we simply re-push. Then we have a guy underneath. Our EBR gets close. We back them off here and get spots, and as you can see, we're in great positions here on these buildings. This guy's coming up, and we're going to make the plays. So I'm going to make a call here, and it's a niche call, right? In this specific situation, it's going to work perfectly, but it's something that we should think about, so I'll highlight it. So I'm going to tell this guy, Bridge Troll, I'm telling him to come down here and join these guys. So why would I do that? Why would I do that? Think about it. Take a second, pause if you need to. Why would I do that? The reason is because we want to get here, okay? But these guys are a little bleeding. So what I want, and this is what I was calling in the game, okay? Bridge, you're going to drive to the windmill, okay? If you get volleyed, right? You yell that you got volleyed. He might even blow up. But if he gets volleyed, immediately these two push to here, okay? Because if they get here and this guy gets volleyed, then they're not going to get shot from anything from the Maus, right? And then they get to here, which is super, super great, because then they can kill the Maus and then come into here and pressure this guy down and pressure this guy down, and then we can pressure cap, okay? If Bridge Troll does not get volleyed for whatever reason, then he can just come to here, okay? So you can see me frantically pinging it. I'm trying to talk as quickly as I can, right? And we'll see how it plays out here. So he's gonna call it, and Bridge is making the call, right? He needs to be the one yelling if he's getting volleyed, even if they all bounce. He says, okay, I didn't get volleyed, I'm still full health, so I'm just gonna push to here. Awesome. He's gonna kill the Maus. As soon as this Maus goes down, these guys move up, right? They come and join him. I'm speeding up the game a little bit more. And now we'll go back to ×1. And now you can see how it's just all gone to shit for them. We've got 2 minutes, and now you can see my EBR is rotating out. We're going to start pressuring out the cap, okay? So, let's recap what you're doing in strongholds and advances. The first thing when you load in, you should be looking at the enemy team comp and yours and deciding what you guys can and can't do and forming a pretty good idea of probably what the caller's going to want to do. Once you get good at these things, by the way, you'll very easily identify if a caller's competent or not, right? Because you'll see stuff and you'll be like, oh, you can't do that. Like, you don't understand as the caller what the hell's going on, right? So if you start seeing yourself being, wait, wow, this call is bullshit, it probably means you're learning. Right? Or maybe you think the call's bullshit and it's not bullshit, and then you've got more to learn. But you see what I'm saying, right? So you're reading the team composition and you're deciding what can we do, what can we not do, what is probably going to be my play, and what is going to get called in the next 10 seconds here, okay? You then need to understand the macro call, where you're going, all right? Think about it like I was discussing before, right? Then focus on your micro when you're actually getting into your position. You start brawling, whatever. Position yourself accordingly. Position relative to teammates. Assume your teammates are going to do the correct thing. Never tunnel vision. Don't bait. That's something I'd actually like to talk about really quickly. Say you are all on a corner, okay? You have 3 tanks. One here, one here, one here. And the Maus is right here. Do not bait each other. Don't do the puppy jiggle. We all know the puppy jiggle, right? You know how you rock back and forth, like you go forward, backwards when you're shooting to try to get them to bounce? Never, ever fucking do that in competitive if you're echeloning, right? If you're stacked correctly, you have a tank right here, a tank right here, a tank right here. What happens is the first guy's rocking fucking back and forth. The other 2 can't shoot. What you do is you all peek together, you all shoot together, and you all back off together. It's that simple. Okay, it's called over peeking, and you all do it together. So don't bait your teammates. Don't fucking tunnel vision. Don't do any of that crap. Baiting teammates is like so annoying, and it like so quickly I'm able to see if like a player is not very good in, like, because they just bait and they don't even know they're baiting, right? And it's not just like doing this little puppy jiggle. You could just take bad pathing. That's another thing you need to think about, your pathing. Always take the best pathing, right? Pathing is how you're getting somewhere. You always want to get somewhere as fast as you can, given the circumstances. For example, sometimes you just need to get there as fast as you can. You don't care if you get shot a couple times. You don't care if you get lit. Sometimes you need to get somewhere as fast as you can without getting lit, right? So these are something to think about. And that's, again, on the macro. Okay, so I understand I'm rotating over to G1 from the hill. I need to get there fast, but based on the macro, I definitely know I don't want to get lit on that rotation, because then they could just come reinforce and it'll be harder for us, and we'll probably have to rotate again, okay? So thinking about stuff like that. Let's go on to the next replay. Was that Mally? Did we do the first Himmels? Did I show you the first Himmels already? I think so. I think this is going to be the last one. Okay. So, once you are a pretty good team player and you're feeling good, okay, you should start making callouts. Okay, you've got confidence, make callouts. If you're in the heavy group, talk about what you need to do. Say, hey guys, we need to do this, or focus this guy, right? You've built some synergy with your caller, you understand the call, you're feeling confident. Start making small callouts, okay? Make your own micro decisions, and definitely don't freeze. Freezing is the worst thing you can do. Just not understanding and then just kind of sitting is the worst. Okay, so let's stop right now, read their team comp. Sit, do what I just said. Read the team compositions, and think about what you can do. Pause the video if you need to. And seriously think about this. Okay? So, as a caller, what am I thinking? Okay? They are very slow. They have nothing fast that can take the hill. I can take the hill with 1 or 2 tanks, spot it, and if they're pushing it, I can leave because I'm going to be here, right, before any of their tanks could be up. So that's the first thing I'm thinking. Second thing I'm thinking is a lot of TDs with no turrets, okay? I can take a lot of the map initially without having to worry about getting overpushed because they don't have a great pushing composition, right? We do, though. We have a lot of speed, a lot of DPM, turrets, okay? It looks to me like they're probably going to do a camp. They don't have to camp, but it probably will be a camp. So that's what I'm seeing right off the bat. Looking at their composition, that's what I'm seeing. So, as a caller, what are you going to see me call? A very light take hill, an aggressive courtyard play with 8-line and 3-line control, okay? And that's what you should be thinking as this IS-7, right? IS-7, this guy, everyone else, this 277, that's what they're thinking about. I just tapped out by accident, okay? Anyway, going back to what I was talking about. Start making callouts as you get more confident in your ability. Okay? Direct the heavy group or the medium group around you. Alright? And then try to start playing offside tanks. I haven't talked about that yet. What is the offside tank? An offside tank is something I'm about to play in my CS. It is a tank that is essentially off the leash. You are controlling normally the side of the map that other people are not playing. Why is offside tank harder? Because you must understand the call. Okay, that's why I normally just play offside tank if I'm the caller. If you can't understand the call, you'll never play it correctly because the caller's not really going to tell you what to do. You need to rotate around what your team is doing. So you should be able to very quickly see, okay, if I don't understand what my team is doing, how the fuck am I going to play offside around them, right? Offside tank is generally going to be something fast that's moving a lot. Okay, that's why EBRs and offside tanks, other than calling, are very, very hard. You hear Lauren tell this a lot. Because offside tanks can win the game or can lose the game, right? You need to be making good decisions. So once you're good and you feel like your heavy play's good, you're cohesive, you hit your shots, you make correct decisions, you're making call for heavies, try out offside tanks a couple times. Now, there are players who just don't play offside tanks. There are very good players who just don't play offside tanks. They're just much better in heavies. Okay, that's fine. But you should still understand kind of how it goes, right? Play EBR. Well, you know what? No, if you're not an EBR player, just don't fucking play EBR or light tanks. But understand how they're played, okay? So do that. Make your callouts. Try your hand at calling. Remember I was saying, advances are for learning. Maybe not in campaigns where everyone's trying to get a tank, right? Say, okay, I feel confident. I want to start calling. Try some calls. At this point, you're familiar with maybe somewhat of the other callers do. You can recycle some stuff, try some new stuff like that. Okay? Let's stop this video quickly as I keep talking. And give your hand a try at calling. Because there is only one thing that's really, really going to make you a good player, and that's calling. Okay? Because you are forced to do everything. You are forced to play your tank and essentially play everyone else's tank too. Like, think about how much awareness it forces you to have, right? If you can get good at calling or decent at calling, you are going to be one of the best players in the clan. And it's unavoidable. Calling, by far, is the best thing you can do to get better. But if you just start randomly calling with no other experience and you can't even drive your own tank, like, one, no one's going to fucking listen to you. Right? Because it's very obvious if you're a fraud. And two, you're just going to get frustrated and you won't learn, right? So it's already when you're confident, you're established, you're feeling good, you've played for a long time, you feel like you've contributed a lot, you've already started calling other smaller groups, and you want to start calling in something like advances where you can practice. That's where you do it. That's where you're going to get super, super good. So let's pause again and let's talk about the macro again. So I'm going to talk about what I'm seeing as the caller right here. The reason I came down here, and you can see I'm about to yell at the 50B, why would Platinum come down here? There's no reason. We're not going to fucking push it. We don't know what's in here or what's happening, right? There's no way we're going to push it. I'm only down here to see if I can see anything, which I did over here, because if there's one, there's probably more, right? Like this is a micro thing where he should just still be up on the fucking hill, and he goes back up. I yell at him, but what do I see? There's one thing right now that is dictating everything, okay? Can anyone see it? take a moment. What information do I have, or what information do I know I could have that completely influences this game? And if you haven't seen the answer yet, it is K-line. Okay? I have BZs here and I have an I7 here. Any tanks that the enemy rotates right now through the K-line, or really anywhere, I will see. What does that mean? It means that right now the map is split like this, right down the 5 line. Anything that wants to rotate west, I will see. Anything that wants to rotate east, I will see. That means that we have cut their map in two, right? And I will take a side and shove everyone on that side, because if they want to come across, I will see it early, we can react, and we will bleed it. Okay, that should be very apparent to everybody. And I made sure to talk about this in the game so everyone was on the same page, but I shouldn't have to, right? We should all understand that that is obviously what's going to happen. We control K-line, right? This is called soft control. We're not actually on the K-line, but we control it because we have vision over all of the rotations through 5. Anyone wants to come from over 7-8 line, they're going to get lit and shot. Okay, we're going to see it. So you can see that's when I'm going to start making the call. And it's going to be an unorthodox call again. But again, I'm thinking based on the situation I'm given. We've opened standard. We've taken map control. Okay, now as a caller, I'm looking, what am I going to do? Okay, well, I see something. What do I see? I know that they're probably stacked at least 2 or 3 tanks in here. The E3's back here. E3's play. There's probably another 1 or 2 back here. There could be guys in here, but that doesn't really matter. What is the best play where these guys on 7-8 and these guys can't do anything? It's going to be a play into here, okay? A play coming through into the 780 and whatever else is in here, and then coming west to clear. So what I want to happen always is we should get a guy out wide, maybe come like this, safe way, maybe even 2 guys who can pressure up as we're pressuring through the 3 line. But I want to pressure 3 line and not get lit. Because I control all of the lanes of vision, I don't have to push like this and get lit. What we can actually do is come through courtyard really sneakily, come to here, and then only get lit when we're in G3 and pushing on them, so they have very little time to react, right? Niche call based on exactly this context, but again, we're thinking, right? We're thinking. So let's think about it. We now know we're going to push into this 780. Where should you go as the heavy tank next? Because you're going to be, these 2 7.7s are going to push. Okay, well, I'm not going to go into this alleyway, right? Because then I'm going to get shot from everything here and everything right here on the K line. So I definitely want to push into this way, okay? And these guys who would come out here, I'm not actually sure if we listen. I'm not, maybe one guy does. We'd want to come up through into J1 and pick anything here, right? So next, as a BZ, we've got 2 BZs. What am I thinking about as the BZ? Okay, well, I need to have the 5-line control, but, and I call this too. I call the BZ. As soon as we make this push, you guys are going to come into here. Okay, why do I do that? Well, coming into here, they could have tanks stacked here, and I just shove them. If they're looking at us, then our guys are cleaning up everything else and can turn on them. If they are not looking at us and they're going to fight with their 780 and whatever else is here, then we just go into the back of them or sit here and farm them in the ass. Okay, or block off exits, right? E3 is thinking, okay, I definitely am going to have to move up to at least here, right? I call it, but I shouldn't have to call this E3, right? Madness and his E3 should just understand that if we're pushing here, he needs to be on this corner and then probably come in at his own pace and just look for shots, right? So that is the macro and what everyone should be thinking, right? I call that we're going to come through like this, okay, sneaky, into the 780. What to do after that? Okay, yeah, I know I can't go into here. I'm probably going to come into here, clean up, play off each other. One thing that does happen in this game, I believe, is we leave G line. We shouldn't ever leave G line, okay? You should, like, Ho-Ri is controlling G line from hill, which is good, but we should have at least 1 or 2 more tanks, like probably 1 kind of sitting on this corner, just not moving until he can come to here and then come in, and then maybe 1 back here, like the Chief should just come to right here and control the G line, because if we're all over here and they retake G line, that could be a problem, okay? Now, it's not in this game, but against a better clan, it could be. So that's, again, something to think about. So let's continue here. You can see how I'm like, Platt, what the fuck are you doing? So he just goes the other way. Because there's no reason for him to be there, obviously. We get a little bit of bleed on their VZ there in the distance, you can see. That's awesome. Okay. So let's keep calling. So I was talking about making callouts, not freezing, then starting to call. Okay. Now this is the absolute last step, right? And everything I've talked about so far in this video, this is like years We're not talking like this is not like 3 months you're gonna start doing all this. This is like the last thing I'm talking about. Probably if you start now and you're really diligent, maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years from now, you start this last thing. The last thing you do to get really good at the game, and look, everyone's rotating properly. Again, macro would be, I say rotate, you understand that you need to do it unlit. Like the whole point of coming in this kind of convoluted way is to do it unlit. Okay, so anyway, the last thing you do is small format. 7v7, 5v5, 6v6. The really, really great tournaments. Now, a lot of these are for money, and they're very hard to qualify for, and you just simply won't qualify for them. But there are weekend ones, bi-weekly, I believe, for like 20,000 gold. 5v5, a lot of them. They're called like the Masters bracket or the Challengers bracket or whatever. So, yeah, you can see someone didn't come this way, and I'm pinging it. Because obviously you need outside control still, so I'm going to go take it, but it's a little bit of a problem, right? Wait. Did I show you this one already? I may have showed you guys this one already. Did I? Surely not. If I did, I'm retarded. I'm sorry. Anyway. If I did, I know I was talking about something else, so it's good that I went over the macro anyway, and what the caller's thinking. So small format. Why is small format good? And like I was saying, they're on a lot of these weekend tournaments. Make a team. Make these teams. There's nothing to lose. Make a 5v5 or 6v6, 7v7 team on these bi-weekly tournaments and play them. Why they're so good is nice. We drive out of the strike here. We're driving the correct way, but you see we've left G-line. That's not awesome, okay? That's not awesome. And also, as I'm talking, look how I play this, okay? Like, you think I'm dead? No, I'm in a position so I make sure not to die. And I'm still focusing the relevant target. I'm getting shot by the BZ, but I know that he doesn't matter right now. Like, just kill the guy we're all focusing, right? Play safe from BZ, use the carts. Okay, so small format is awesome because it amplifies every mistake, okay? You can think about it. 7v7, if you make a mistake in 7v7, it's amplified as opposed to 15v15. You'd think, oh, it's probably amplified by 2 times. No, it's way more. It's quite literally like this. A lot of the time, if you bleed a shot or get lit when you shouldn't get lit in 7v7, you will just straight lose, okay? So that's why small format is so good. Also, the maps are so much bigger, so you need to make so many more rotations. Small format kind of plays like this. You both feel each other out for the first 80% of the game, and then a team makes a push, they make their decision, and it's over within a minute after that, okay? It is all about thinking. That's why it gets you so good so quickly, because it punishes you to shit for your mistakes, okay? It forces you to learn and adapt faster than any other thing you could do. And every decision you make is either rewarded or the mistake is amplified tenfold. Okay? So it's super, super obvious when you're making a mistake. Now, would I recommend doing small format when you can't even shoot your gun? No, because you'll just get shit on and you'll have no clue why. Okay? So it just won't help. This is very much the last thing when you're already experienced, you're great at pubs, you have done really well in Clan Wars, you're feeling confident, maybe you've called a bit, then you move on to some small format stuff. Should you join some small format teams right now while you're still learning and let's go just try to play? Sure, like Goons run some play, see if you can get on some Goons teams and just try to learn. You might not understand a lot of it, you might get shit on, but it might give you like a, not a wake-up call, but like a, man, okay, so this is kind of what it's like. I don't know what the hell's going on here, right? Something like that, but it's very much a last resort, or last thing you do. And I can't stress enough how fucking good it is, how good calling is in small format is to make you better, okay? You can get all good at pubs and you've done this, and then you do small format, and like I said earlier in the video, you realize, holy shit, there's, like, I don't know anything. I thought I was this great player, and I know fuck all. And then it opens up your mind, right? It's like you've become enlightened. So, stuff to think about. Pretty comprehensive guide, I would say, to get better. Unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, there's no cheat codes when it comes to aiming and like positioning, right? It's just something you either have or you don't have, and you can develop it, but a lot of players can't. A lot of intangible stuff, but again, this game's all about thinking. It's thinking. Everybody's aim should be perfect. It's how you think and decide to do things and rotate and see the game that's going to separate you from other players. Anyway, I think that's going to be it. Yeah, one more thing about small format is it forces you to understand the maps inside and out and positions and why they work. Okay, because you might know like, oh, I go to the farm position on Malinovka, but you don't actually really understand why it works. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of these things you won't even understand that you don't understand them until you've gone through them and experienced them. So it's almost like useless advice. I'm just trying to set you on the correct path to discovering these things, if that makes any sense. So that's gonna be it. If you have any questions, you can DM me. You can comment on the video, whatever. I don't care. And think about it. If you have any more questions or stuff like that, like I said, DM me. I can give you some tips if you want. If anyone wants to like platoon or wants to do replay review, you can do that. I can critique, right? That's very helpful. If you critique your own gameplay, that's helpful. Anyway, so I hope this helped some people. I know it's long as fuck. It's an hour and 15. Jesus Christ. All right, I'll stop it here, and good luck out there, boys.